I refused to give my brother my late father's tools. My dad had been gone for 4 weeks when my brother Mark called me. I was still parking in his driveway out of habit, still reaching for my phone to call him when something broke in the house. His garage smelled like motor oil and sawdust, exactly the way it had my entire childhood. I hadn't touched a single thing in there yet. Mark didn't bother easing into it. So, he said, clearing his throat, I was thinking I could take Dad's tools, the good ones at least. You know, the power tools, the cabinet stuff. I've got that new workshop set up in my basement, and honestly, they're just sitting there. I stared at the wall while he talked. Dad had died suddenly. 1 minute he was planning a deck repair, the next he was gone. His drill was still plugged in. His coffee thermos was still on the workbench. I'm not ready, I said. I haven't even gone through the garage yet. Mark sighed like I'd inconvenienced him. That's exactly why I should take them. Dad would hate them collecting dust. He always said tools are meant to be used. That was true. Dad believed tools were extensions of the hands, but they weren't just tools to me. They were Saturday mornings and scraped knuckles and him teaching me how to measure twice and cut once. I said no, I told him. There was a pause, then he said, well, I'll be by this weekend anyway. Maybe seeing me put them to use will help you let go. When I came home Saturday afternoon, the garage door was open. I knew immediately something was wrong. I stepped inside and saw empty hooks on the wall. The big rolling toolbox was gone. Half the shelves were bare. Mark was loading the last item into his truck, Dad's old circular saw, the one he'd had longer than either of us had been alive. What are you doing? I asked, my voice shaking. You weren't going to get to it, Mark said, not even looking at me. I took the essentials. I left you plenty. I walked over and pulled the saw out of his hands. Put it back. You're being emotional, he snapped. These things are meant to work, not sit around as some kind of memorial. I opened the toolbox he'd already loaded. Inside was Dad's measuring tape with his initials scratched into the metal, the hammer with the cracked handle he refused to replace, the level he used to check everything 3 times because he said houses remembered mistakes. Get it all out, I said. Mark laughed. Seriously? You're acting like these are sacred relics. I looked closer and felt something drop in my stomach. He was wearing Dad's old work gloves, the leather ones Dad broke in himself. Take those off, I said quietly. What? The gloves, take them off. Mark rolled his eyes but peeled them off and tossed them at me. They were warm. That was somehow the worst part. You're not the only one who lost him, he said. You don't get to claim everything. I'm not claiming them, I said. I'm asking for time. You didn't ask. You just took. He slammed the truck door shut. Fine, keep it all. Build a shrine. Don't come crying to me when you're buried under boxes and can't move on. He drove off without looking back. I spent the rest of the day putting everything back where it had been. I wiped down the workbench. I rehung the tools exactly the way Dad liked them, handles facing out. When I opened the bottom drawer, I found a folded piece of paper. It was a sketch, a rough plan for a birdhouse drawn in Dad's shaky handwriting. At the bottom, he'd written, for next spring, teach him how. I sat on the garage floor and cried until it got dark, holding a piece of paper my brother would have thrown away without a second thought.